Observation, and I want to know if it's just my observation, but it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that we were driving in winter conditions daily to now. But boy, it seems like how quickly we forgot how to get around in the snow, the slush, the wind. Today was one of those miserable commutes in the morning. I know it's gotten better out there now. The only thing that I would ask of you, obviously the Road Warrior reports throughout the afternoon here, is I know how strong that wind started to blow out of the north, and some of that snow that was dumped upon all of us earlier, most of us, I guess I can't speak for all of us, was starting to blow. And because of the warm conditions on the road, because of the wet conditions, those east-west roads started to look like they were collecting some of that. So I suspect that if that's going to be the case, we want to let people know what roads are maybe a little, I want to say snow-covered, a little slushy out there. So you can send those in all day to the Eye Consultants of North Dakota text club at 35270. You can also call the Laney studio line at 237-5948, and we'll let everyone know about those conditions as we are expecting to get on home and get on out of here at 5 o'clock. A number of other opportunities you can join the conversation all day today, whether it's about the Twins, whether it's about what's going on down in St. Paul, which we're going to be joined by Bill Werner here in just a little bit to get you all the latest as we do our regular check-in here. But also, yesterday, I did not get to this, and we will get to the audio for you, because routinely over the last, couple of months now, well, at least the last month, because I think, there are crises or global events that change things for all of us, some more than others, but certainly in our conversation about oil, gas, what you're paying, how much, what's preventing more development right here. That conversation happened in Bismarck just yesterday with the Legacy Fund Earnings Committee. So you know about the Legacy Fund, you know about the billions of dollars out there. We've talked about what should or what could be done with it. Not all in agreement there, but I think there is agreement that there is an opportunity to really invest right here in North Dakota in a variety of things. As you're well aware, that does stem from, one, your vote to create the thing and to take some money from oil and gas development. So this committee gets together, figures out what's the projections here, what can we expect, why are things going this way versus that way? How long is this play going to be going on in North Dakota? How many more years can we really just drill, fill up some coffers, fund the Legacy Fund, fund some schools, fund all of this? That conversation was taking place yesterday. And the key figure in North Dakota, if you don't regularly pay attention, which I do not fault you whatsoever, is the Department of Mineral Resources. They're tasked with a lot of things when it comes to development, leasing, oversight, fines, if they're ever enforced, but really just all of a sudden providing information to everyone, whether you are a mineral owner, you are a part of the industry, and quite frankly, the legislature. So the legislature part is what we want to talk about a little bit because of what the conversation has really been revolving around over the last couple of months because of that war in Ukraine, because of that Russian oil. We're energy independent. That's a whole claim that keeps coming in. And you know where I've stood on that it sounds great, but those weren't the facts. They still are not the facts. Lynn Helms was directly asked yesterday from Craig Hedlund, who is a representative, a Republican from the Montpelier area, about, is it this administration that is really holding us back when it comes to why we're not seeing an increase in the production of oil and gas here in North Dakota? And I want you to take a listen to what Lynn Helms had to say.
One of the CEOs that we spoke to in Houston said that the worldwide oil and gas industry has underinvested by 50% for the last 7 years. So he was going back 7 years that this concept of climate change and ESG and all of that began to impact investment in the petroleum industry. And so it predates this administration, and it will carry on beyond this administration.
Started before the administration, is going to carry on beyond this administration. Now, he went on to say that there are some things that, and this is where you're going to say, see, Tyler, there you are, caught you. They acknowledge that, in his opinion, that there are some things that have not been removed. Regulations, some of that red tape that is not enticing, is not motivating to get people in the industry to all of a sudden start drilling here in North Dakota. It's happening down in New Mexico. It's happening in Texas, not happening in North Dakota because of that whole maturing area that we were talking about long before Russia invaded Ukraine. But it's the market that is what's driving this non-startup, this revving up the engines out here in North Dakota to get more oil domestically collected and all of a sudden put into the whole pipeline here. So if we were going to take it from anyone, and Lynn Helms is by no means someone to shy away from really clapping and cheering on the industry out there. It's just a moment of honesty that I appreciated from him yesterday, saying, look, I understand the whole wanting to just go ahead and point it at the White House, say, well, this is Joe Biden, because on the first day, the first week of his time in office, he got rid of Keystone XL pipeline. I mean, I get that text in every time we broach this subject. Sometimes from a copy and paste individual. I'm sure I was just waiting to send that on in right now at 35270. But to hear from an energy observer, somebody that's supposed to be a regular, but don't forget he's also the promoter of that same industry right here in North Dakota, say it's the market, and at least for the last 7 years, according to one of the individuals he trusts, that the perception, the idea has really started to slide down a little bit. It happened before this administration. It happened before the last administration. It's going to continue after this administration. Well, more of this conversation. I want to get some of these Road Warrior reports out because I'd asked for them. Tyler, 19th Avenue up by the horse track is pretty tough. In that, some of that open area over there, I suspect, especially those east-west roads, as I was telling you, because of that northerly wind. Another one. Tyler, a quick road update. Happy Harry's parking lot is pretty clear. No issues headed east or west to it as well. So I assume somebody had to make a pit stop up at Happy Harry's. I would assume on 19th Avenue. Perhaps you're talking about the other one as well. Tyler, semi in the ditch partially on westbound lane 4 miles east of Gwinner, Highway 13, slush and blowing snow. Thanks for getting those in. I'm going to repeat that one more time. There's a semi in the ditch partially on the westbound lane 4 miles east of Gwinner, Highway 13. There's slush and blowing snow out there. That blowing snow is going to continue on throughout the afternoon. The wind, that annoying wind after that annoying snow that we really were hoping to be past all this. Unfortunately, we're in North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota. That's just not the reality. But we'll take more of your road reports, your phone calls as well at 237-5948. It is Wednesday afternoon. KFGO time is 2:17. I'm Tyler Axton, and we're just getting started here on KFGO. I'm going to remind you about a raffle we got going on tomorrow, and we'll get back to this whole, it's the markets, silly. It's not the Joe Biden administration. Why? We're not drilling more North Dakota, because we are in other parts of the country. But I'm curious if you'd be upset about this. I'll ask Eric Johnson is my producer, by the way, and he's sticking around for the drive time news as well. That's day 3, my friend.
I know.
Jeez,
I think we're going to make it.
You're turning heads upstairs, I'm guessing. They didn't give you the pink slip. They didn't come in and have your stuff in a box this morning.
Yeah, well, tomorrow's a truncated version, but we'll stick through the week at least.
Well, tomorrow's a big day for you. You get to draw the Twins ticket winner, right?
That's true. That's true.
Okay, so let's start here. Then I'll ask you if you would forgive in this moment here. Eric Church was making news. Different Eric, not Eric Johnson. Twins Mania. So tomorrow you'll be listening to the Morning Crew, News and Views, It Takes Two, Afternoons Live, and the Drive Time News, which many of you do, and we certainly appreciate that. But during every show, we're getting a qualifier to win 4 tickets to the home opener for the Minnesota Twins, which is a week from tomorrow. And tomorrow, I'll just tell you, because we have audibles brought to you by Don's Car Wash, the way you're going to win a qualifier on this show is we're going to have you be a part of an audible clue. So that's going to be, I'll just give you heads, don't lose any sleep over it. It's going to be a little bit of a fun way for you to get qualified from Afternoons Live. But we will do that tomorrow, and Eric's going to pull that name out of that hat tomorrow at 5:05, promptly at 5:05, I'm told. So you'll be listening all day to get qualified. This moment, would you understand it? And later on in the show, I want to talk about some other music-related situations. But Eric Church, he was just in Grand Forks not long ago, right?
Yeah,
right.
I feel like that show was a couple months ago.
Was that the record breaker as far as attendance at the Alaris?
Did Morgan Wallen beat it or get close to it? They were 2 huge shows.
Shows, and I know that some people had issues with in and out, all that we don't have to get into, but that just shows how big of a crowd they had. Eric Church, certainly huge success when it comes to actually playing live shows. I have not been. I mean, I know a couple Eric Church songs, just not really my vibe overall. And I think you know that, but the Final Four is coming up on Saturday. You've got Duke, you've got UNC. Now, this is a matchup that has never happened in the NCAA tournament of these 2 rivals going head-to-head, and let alone the Final Four, so the winner's going on to the championship game in just a couple days. It's going to be a huge, insane game, right?
Still blows my mind that they've never met.
I know, out of how many times that they have played, obviously, a regular season, but they've never had in the tournament. It's just wild. But such as this falls, it's going to be this Saturday. It's going to be Saturday evening. He was supposed to have a concert in Houston, and yesterday or this morning put out that he's going to cancel his concert so he can go watch in person Duke UNC because he's a big UNC fan, a Tar Heel. So if you are a fan, do you understand and do you forgive Eric Church for saying, you know what? I know you spent your hard-earned money. You took time out of your schedule. You put it on your calendar to come watch me perform for you. But my team's in the Final Four, man, and they're playing their rivals here. Do you forgive?
Boy,
do you understand?
I don't. Especially if you're traveling to that show. That's tough. I get it. Hey, we've all had to miss things we've wanted to be at because of work obligations.
That's true. That is, okay, that's a fair point. Because right away, I'm like, you know what? I get it. Because trust me, if the significant other was here and it was the NFL season and there was, say, a game going on, and I'm like, I can't miss this. I try to find ways to schedule around that. How selfish, how gross of that is of me, right? So I get that. I forgive? I did initially.
Yeah, I mean,
really
I
did.
probably do. I know some people who are huge Eric Church fans, so it'd be interesting to see their thoughts. I've seen him a couple times. He puts on a fun show. It's nothing crazy, but it's fun.
He's gonna reschedule.
Here's what he could do to win the good graces back. And he says, I'm going to eat the cost of these tickets, but hold on to them because you can still come.
Yeah,
we'll give you your money back. Same seat, same venue, different date.
I think that would be expected.
Yeah.
That should be expected.
Anything short of that is tough.
Don't worry. I'm coming, folks. I know that this is Gonna have you spitting when you say my name just for a little while, but I'm gonna make good on this. I just that's got to be assumed, right?
Oh, I sure hope so. I get it. Like an artist doesn't want to eat the cost of that, but if you're gonna make this choice a week out,
yeah, I would say the thing that, because if you're trying to make plans the week out, especially as you said, there's people for Elton John that came from California because of, well, it's probably cheaper to get a ticket in North Dakota to see someone like Elton John than it is to go to, say, probably L.A., Las Vegas. We'll pick any of the coastal cities there. So people do travel a long distance to see artists in there. So if it's just that week ahead, now with airlines being what they are, I don't know if it's real easy to all of a sudden get things transferred over, get things kicked back to where, all right, well, Eric, you know what? You just tell us when you're going to be there, and I'm going to be back when you are. I'd be curious. I don't know. My gut was, all right, I get it. This is the one time that this has ever happened. You're a huge fan, and you don't want to miss out on this, especially when he could afford to just go buy the ticket of the Final Four, which, of course, is not something that's cheap if you've ever looked at those ticket prices. I think I forgive. I forgive Eric Church. I say, you know what? You go get him, guy.
all right. Let me just
forgive. I forgive. You go on. You do you.
Let me just pose this hypothetical to you, because you and I are both very excited for this 4 years in the making Rage
Against the Machine
concert
Falls.
in Sioux Falls. It's been rescheduled a few times. I think we understand. Neither of us had made plans in the time. So we get to March of next year, and we're a week out, and Zach De La Rocha says, there's this match that I really want to go to.
Thing going on,
and
Conor
so
McGregor,
we're just gonna go ahead and cancel. But you've already got your hotel booked, and you've got your plans made.
Because here's where your hypothetical goes wrong and astray from this is this has been canceled a few times already. So the scenario's apples and oranges, my friend.
But never. I'm put your mind into that place where you've already got the trip set up.
I will not concede. I forgive Eric Church for this. I say, you know what? You go. You watch your team. You cheer loud.
With the caveat that he makes good on it.
Correct, and that's the expectation, though. I mean, I just assumed.
Because if it's just a reschedule, but you still got to pay full fare for the tickets.
Okay, then those are some words that we had. Messages into the iConsults of North Dakota Test Club. Not an Eric Church fan, but the other people have schedules too. That is complete boo hockey. Tyler Church gets hurt on this deal. You hear about the astronomical salaries the ball players receive, and they are way overpaid. Why doesn't anyone speak up for the reduction in ticket prices and concessions other than don't go to the game? I'll address that last one because this is the NCAA and not NBA. In between KFGO News and CBS.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Muscatel Pre-Owned. Muscatel's was voted #1 by LocalsLoveUs.com for good reason. So stop in today to Muscatel Pre-Owned, just off of Exit 1 in Moorhead.
Cloudy 28. I'm Paul Jurgens. Fargo City Commissioner Dave Pepcorn has decided to run for another term on the commission and will not be a candidate for mayor, something he did consider. Pepcorn is the 11th person to file for one of the two commission spots. Commissioner Tony Garrick announced earlier that he is not running again. 5 people have filed for mayor, including incumbent Tim Mahoney and Commissioner Arlette Preston. The filing deadline for the June 14th election is April 11th. Bird flu has been confirmed in a non-commercial backyard chicken flock in North Dakota. The poultry flock is in Kidder County. It is the first confirmed case in the state since 2015. Farms that raise poultry have been on high alert and taking steps to ensure biosecurity since avian influenza was recently discovered in several states, including Minnesota. All birds in the North Dakota flock will be destroyed. Bird flu does not present an immediate public health concern. Senator Kramer had questions for the commander of U.S. and NATO forces during a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing about the American military presence in Europe in light of Putin's invasion of Ukraine.
What I'm wondering is, over the last several years, as we've been drawing down to prepare more forces for other places, specifically the Pacific, how do we reconcile the need for more forces everywhere? Does this management of personnel become much more difficult?
General Todd Wolters told the Senate committee temporary deployments of troops to Central and Eastern Europe to boost NATO has brought the U.S. presence to more than 100,000, either on rotation or on a permanent basis. But the question is whether there should be an increased long-term presence of U.S. troops in Europe. Wolters says his suspicion is that more U.S. troops may be needed there. 28. This is KFGO News. .28 degrees. You're listening to KFGO News. A Florida man is scheduled for trial in Minnesota this summer on human smuggling charges following his January arrest just across the Canadian border, where 4 migrants had frozen to death during a blizzard. A federal judge has scheduled Steve Shand's trial to begin July 18th. Shand is charged with bringing 2 people into the country illegally and transporting them once in the U.S. The 4 bodies were discovered near Emerson, Manitoba. In addition, 5 Indian nationals are found walking on the Minnesota side of the border, and 2 others were found in Shand's van. State investigators have sent their investigation now to prosecutors in the police shooting of 22-year-old Amir Locke, killed when a SWAT team stormed a downtown Minneapolis high-rise apartment using a no-knock warrant. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension says the case is now at the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, with Attorney General Keith Ellison to decide whether Officer Mark Hanneman will be charged. Locke was not named as the subject of the warrant. Attorney General Ellison and a bipartisan coalition of 44 attorneys general are urging TikTok and Snapchat to give parents the ability to monitor their children's social media use through certain apps. Ellison says it's an effort to protect children from online threats.
Things like cyberbullying, sexual predation, things like body image and self-esteem, dissatisfaction, drugs, alcohol, things like, suicidal ideation and self-harm.
More than 1,200 Minnesotans are now trained as certified nursing assistants. The goal of the program was to recruit and train 1,000 CNAs to assist with staffing shortages in nursing and veterans' homes. 940 people enrolled in free training courses offered by a state college or private provider, and 338 high school students were trained through their districts. The program was funded with federal American Rescue Plan dollars. Governor Tim Walz is requesting another $6.5 million to continue the CNA training program. Cloudy, windy this afternoon. Temperatures holding steady. We're at 28. We've been there now for a couple of hours at least. 22, mostly cloudy tonight. The wind subsiding. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and 38. 43 for Friday, mostly cloudy. There'll be at least a slight chance of light rain, light snow. 48, partly sunny Saturday. 28 again and cloudy. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
Now, Rusty Halverson is Well, he certainly seems like a forgiving man, does he not? When you hear him, just so kind, so humble, and
I try to be.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we all?
Well, that's where I'm coming. For perhaps the first of many times, or very few times is how I should say, I am trying to be the one that is understanding and forgiving when an artist who is a huge fan of a sports team a week before a concert that he was going to throw for his fans decides, look, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go watch my favorite team play their biggest rivalry in one of the biggest sporting events there is in the United States, in the NCAA Final Four.
You're talking about the big tournament.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what we can legally say here.
I don't know either.
I think as long as we're not selling any products or giving anything away, we can say the madness part. You can fill it. I see how I chickened out there at the last
No.
one.
Oh, we'll talk about chicken in a second.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, the stage is set. Do you forgive that artist if he cancels 1 week ahead? You have tickets, mind you. You have the travel arrangements. You are primed up. You're saying 1 week from today, I'm going to see Eric Church in Houston, and he pulls this on you. Do you forgive?
Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay, so...
That changes?
Well, it kind of depends. One, do you get your tickets refunded?
No.
Two, how long have you been waiting to see this artist? Have you seen them before? Do you really, can you be patient to see them again? And, you know, it kind of feels like being stood up for a date.
Not forgiving. You're not going to forgive Eric Church for this, as he admitted. Now, to his credit, that this is a detail I left out when I pulled in my producer Eric, saying that this is the most selfish thing he's ever asked of his fans. He's acknowledging.
Okay.
Now, as far as the ticket thing, that's the key piece that we have no information on.
Okay.
Anyway, well, I thought for sure you say, you know what?
Oof, that's a tough.
Bless him. I forgive Eric Church.
Well, that's a tough question because, you know, if that's a posted concert date and there's a lot of gears that have to come together and make things happen for something like that. And I just go to a basketball game. You know.
I'll stand alone in this one. Fine. I don't need anyone else to agree with me. That's perfectly fine, Rusty.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to give it more thought.
You want to talk about chickens?
Yeah.
What about chickens?
Well, as you heard on KFGO News, there has been a detection of avian influenza in a backyard flock in Kidder County, North Dakota. We've had 5 counties in Minnesota detect that disease. So far, 12 counties in South Dakota, according to a phone conversation I had earlier today with state officials there. And it's not uncommon to detect avian influenza in wild birds. That virus circulates freely, and those populations, the birds don't appear to be sick, but it is a problem for commercial growers, of course. And Butch Bray, we heard from him yesterday, turkey grower, Minnesota, currently serving vice president of the Minnesota Turkey Research Promotion Council. He's based in Sleepy Eye, Minnesota. Now, he says the important step from a commercial industry standpoint is to depopulate infected flocks after a detection. Now, back in December of 2014 and 2015, Tyler, more than 50 million chickens and turkeys in the U.S. died because of that influenza, or they were destroyed to stop the spread of the disease. When it comes to backyard chicken flocks, if you happen to have chickens, there are some signs to watch for: tremors, twisted necks, paralyzed wings, laying down and pedaling, and this is a reportable disease. So if you do happen to have backyard chickens and something seems amiss, contact your veterinarian as soon as possible.
Required reporting?
It is a required reportable disease.
All right. Well, and I'll ask you some of these questions next hour. I know I got Bill Warner coming. In fact, I got questions coming in for you at the text club as well, because when you have the backyard versus the large commercial, you know, I know it's federal. It just, I think it feels like there's a gray area there, and I just want to clear that up. But I'll do that next hour, all right?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That way we can research it. That's my wink and nod to you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Rusty Halverson, him and Sarah Heinrich, multi-award-winning journalists of agriculture. Your questions that came in about this, I will save those, and we'll ask Rusty Halverson in the next hour. CBS News on the way. Bill Warner, Minnesota News Network next. Paul visit with our Capital correspondent and friend of the show, Bill Werner, to get all the latest with what's going on down in the Twin Cities. Bill, appreciate your time, my friend. How you been?
Hey, Tyler, been okay. You guys, how's the snow situation up there? We got some here today, and it's kind of slush, and it looks like most of it's gone, but how are you looking up there?
We're all very frustrated. I think people are going wild today. I mean, we forgot in the 3 weeks that it's been how to drive in the snow because it came, so we range from 1 inch to I think the largest amount I saw was 8 inches within this listening area. So
yeah, it's discouraging this time of the year, but I guess the one thing we can remember is that it's not going to be around for very long.
It'll be gone by the weekend. Yeah, it's just it's demoralizing.
You got to shovel it and all that stuff, and then it's slush and off it goes.
I'm refusing. It's as Too Tall Tom Schmansky says, our meteorologist. If Mother Nature put it there, she can take it away. So it's going to be
there. As long as you don't get stuck, right?
Yeah, that's the truth.
That's it.
Bill, got a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Our farm and ranch reporter, Bill Werner, just talked about. Or Bill, or sorry, you're Bill.
I was thinking, I turned into that. Hey, you gave me a promotion.
There
That's
you go.
Great.
Yeah, the check's in the mail for your extra news. Rusty Hoverson was talking before we got you on about the bird flu going on. I know Governor Walz had addressed some of that. What's the latest you got?
Yeah, and there's bills moving through both the Minnesota House and Senate. The House actually has passed a bill. Senate is going to do a vote tomorrow on a bill. It's a drought relief bill, but they're expanding it to include emergency provisions for avian flu. I made some quick notes here. Among the provisions, $1 million for the veterinary diagnostic lab, $500,000 for agriculture emergency account to respond to disease outbreaks, and additional language to unlock the existing balance in the ag emergency account. That's about $500,000 for avian flu testing. So that bill will likely clear the Senate floor, and then there's differences with the House bill. The House bill has a provision that it's a drought relief package, and it has some avian flu stuff in it too. But it would give money to the DNR to restock or to replenish nursery stock, for reforestation that was damaged, badly impacted by the drought. And the Republicans in the Senate say, Corey Westrom, the chair of the Ag Committee in the Senate, says that's really a boat anchor. It's going to hold this whole thing up, that we need to get that out of there and just move forward with the drought relief and the avian flu outbreak emergency funding. And the House sponsor of the bill, who is Representative Mike Sundin, who's from ESCO, says, DNR provision, it's important. He says, quote, I'm going to try to work it in. If we can't, we have to find another way. So you can see that there's probably a path to compromise on that bill. And they probably get, even though the House and Senate are going to do negotiations in conference committee, my gut feel, and watch me be wrong on this, is that, and also that they're farmers, because farmers like to get things done, okay? Yes. And not play politics. Mm-hmm. I mean, seriously, they're the ones that usually get their bills resolved and out and to the governor's desk first in the legislative sessions, and it's kind of looking that way now too. So we'll see what happens. But there's certainly things in the works for that on avian flu, which is a lot of people are very nervous about that. We don't need a repeat performance of 2015.
No, we don't. That's why we've been discussing it throughout the last couple of days here, and I've got questions in about the food safety aspect of it. And the way I understand, Bill, I know that you're a Capitol reporter here, but my understanding is, if this flock, or if it gets into a flock, it's not harmful to humans for consumption. But if you don't have an answer, I've got my farm and ranch reporter Rusty Hoverson working on that.
Yeah, the medical aspects of it, I'm not going to venture into, except to say that the flocks, if there's an infestation, they need to be euthanized. Yes. The entire group of poultry, whether that be chickens or turkeys, need to be killed, and then you got a tremendous loss to the farmer there. The medical aspects of it, they're saying there's no risk to the food supply, but in terms of whether infected birds can be used in some way, shape, or form, that one I'm going to defer to an expert on.
No, I respect that. In fact, like I said, I got my expert working on that as we speak right now.
Good.
I'm looking at the calendar here. It's the end of March tomorrow, and I know that a deadline is looming already. I'm just curious, progress being made? Are there a lot of bills just sitting in the hopper waiting to be acted upon?
Well, yeah, this is a deadline week, and it means that it's the second deadline, which means that if a bill is passed a committee in one chamber, the House or the Senate, the companion then needs to pass all its required committees in the other chamber by Friday. And so there's a lot of push. I mean, the agenda is full. People are scrambling. A lot of bills, frankly, are ones that don't have a real broad interest, okay, or maybe aren't newsworthy, I guess, as we would tag them. But that doesn't mean that things are not happening that are interesting. As an example, Governor's going to sign a bill this afternoon that is going to provide $25 million for research and for caregiving support for ALS. That's also called Lou Gehrig's disease. It is a disease that at this point is always fatal. It results in degenerative muscular action. In other words, a person progressively loses the ability to control their muscles, and ultimately it goes to breathing, and then that's the end of it. It's a serious disease. I know people who have struggled with loved ones who had it, and it's a bad way to die. This legislation is saluting Senator Dave Tomassoni. He's an independent from Chisholm who was diagnosed with ALS. And he has been updating members of the Minnesota Senate and Minnesotans in general on the progress of that disease. It's heartbreaking to hear. He said he was not able to be at the Capitol a couple of days ago when the Senate passed the bill and sent it to the governor's desk. But Senator Tom Bach from Cook read a statement from Senator Tomassoni, again, who could not be at the Capitol, presumably because of the progress of the disease. And this is what he said in his stead.
This bill has the potential to be the beginning of eradication of an insidious disease, not for me, but for future generations.
Well, Tyler, that's the kind of comment that obviously he's a man who is thinking about other people and not himself at this point, and there were some eyes that were not dry in both the House and Senate chambers as a result of that.
Yeah, well, it's like you say, it's one of those tough. So many of us, including our listeners, know somebody who is struggling or has struggled or is related to somebody that has gone through that terrible.
And there's
disease.
so many other diseases as well that are similar in terms of diseases, dementing illnesses, Parkinson's, and other diseases that are very serious as well that ultimately go somewhat down that direction too, that they aren't covered by this particular legislation that the governor signed, but certainly we need to not forget those also.
Yeah. Bill, I know we're running up against the clock here. As far as the budget itself, there's teachers that were out there and the representatives saying, you guys have a surplus. We can certainly use some of that in the education. Republicans still saying we want a permanent tax cut. Any movement whatsoever now that the second deadline's here?
No.
I'm stunned. I could have answered that, but I just wanted to hear from you.
Yeah, and the latest graduation figures came out showing somewhat of a drop of the four-year graduation rate and really no closing of the so-called achievement gap between white students and their counterparts, students of color. And the teachers union, Education Minnesota, is saying, hey, Republicans in the Senate, stop sitting on the surplus. We need money to start addressing this problem. Republicans' response is that this money has been thrown at schools for decades, and there's no turnaround in this. And they say we got to get back to basics, and we need to give parents choice to provide them funds to put their students elsewhere if they want to, where there would be better results. And Democrats say, well, that's vouchers. Republicans say, so be it. And Republicans say that, by the way, we have a $9 billion surplus, inflation is raging, and Minnesotans need a break in terms of permanent tax cuts. And the Democrats say, well, we need to do some investment in education as well, not just put the state potentially in another budget deficit situation if the economy turns around. So, to answer your question, we're right kind of where we've been for some time on that one.
I'm
probably right to the end of session, I would guess.
Stunned. That's why I keep thinking about our friend that called, the listener, said, you know what, I want to get something out there that says if they don't meet the deadlines and the work's completed, they don't get paid. But, Bill, I'm out of time. My friend, I appreciate it as always. We'll check back in next Wednesday, all right?
Excellent. You guys take care. The snow will melt.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
my friend, we'll talk soon. Bill Warner, Capital correspondent down in St. Paul. Tyler, eastbound 94 backed up at University Drive. Eastbound 94 backed up at University Drive. Want to get that Road Warrior report out. Get you a weather report from Too Tall Tom Schmancy, and we'll wrap up the first hour of Afternoons Live next here on KFGO. About 3 minutes until the top of the hour. CBS National News headlines. We'll check back in with Paul Jurgens at KFGO News Center. Then, guess what? We're talking all things Twins with the studio host of your Minnesota Twins, Chris Adberry. And, of course, I want to thank our sponsors, LionX. Main Avenue in West Fargo is where you can find them. You can visit LionX of Fargo on the web at lionx.com. And Jiffy Lube, now new sponsor of our segment, with 3 Fargo convenient locations. You can do more in a jiffy at Jiffy Lube. So they say talk Twins, and you know what? We're just about 1 week away from that opener. And I'm going to remind you one more time to be listening all day tomorrow to get in on Twins Media. From the morning crew through news and views, It Takes Two, Afternoons Live. We're going to get you qualified during those shows, but you're going to want to listen at exactly 5:05 during the drive time news to hear your name get called. You're going to get 4 tickets to Target Field opening day. That's going to be taking place next week. And if you don't win the tickets, but you're one of the qualifiers that wins throughout the show, Buffalo Wild Wings has your ticket as well. You can take in all the Twins games at any of their 3 locations, but I know that we got some of the great sauces here, and that's going to be happening all day tomorrow. Chris Atterbury coming up. Also, we'll take more of these conversations that you have sent in, 35270, whether it's about oil production, Donald Trump again asking for Vladimir Putin for help, the war criminal Vladimir Putin. You okay with that? We'll have that conversation a little bit later on. I'm Tyler Axis. You got locked into KFGO Fargo. I can wait. I can just wait it out. I can wait it out. I don't have to say another word if you don't want me to. Okay, so here's what's trending today. Miley Cyrus holds the world record now today. This was just announced yesterday. Largest attendance in the history of Lollapalooza in Brazil. 103,000 people attended that concert. Can you imagine? Creeps me out. Gross. Too many people. But she's evolved into like a rocker, and you're going with this song.
How do you not go with Party in the USA? I mean, it wasn't in the USA, but
yeah, this was a party.
It was a party.
In Brazil, but okay. Well, I'm sure a lot of you cranked.
She does
up
have a
Miley
cover
Cyrus.
of "Nothing Else Matters." That's
there's a lot of rock songs you could have chosen, you didn't.
Nope.
We'll take that up after we get caught up with Paul Durkis of the KFGO News Center. Chris Atterbury, studio host for Minnesota Twins. He's right after this.
KFGO News, cloudy and 27. The field of candidates for Fargo City Commissioners grown to 11, with Commissioner Dave Pepcorn filing for another term, deciding against a run for mayor. Pepcorn hopes to retain a seat on the commission, where 2 seats are in play. Commissioner Tony Garrick decided not to seek another term. There are 5 candidates who have filed for mayor thus far, including incumbent Tim Mahoney. The filing deadline for the June 14th election is April 11th. Bird flu has been confirmed in a non-commercial backyard chicken flock in North Dakota. The poultry flock is in Kidder County. It is the first confirmed case in the state since 2015. Farms that raise poultry have been on high alert and taking steps to increase biosecurity since avian influenza was recently discovered in several states, including Minnesota. All birds in the North Dakota flock will be destroyed. Bird flu does not present an immediate public health concern. Minnesota high school graduations, the rate dropped last year slightly. Just over 83% of seniors graduated on time, a half percentage point drop from 2020. Education Commissioner Dr. Heather Mueller.
The class of 2021 is the first graduating cohort that experienced a full year impacted by the pandemic. Seeing a slight decline this year emphasizes the importance of ensuring Minnesota public schools have the funding and resources necessary to support all students.
Nearly every student group posted a dip in the percentage of students graduating on time. Black students registered a slight improvement to 70%. Feedback from parents and teachers on the first draft of new math standards for Minnesota K-12 grades has been overwhelmingly negative, to including references to the state's American Indian tribes. The Department of Education committee is proposing 20 standards which summarize what students are expected to learn in math. Since the document was released last month, parents and educators have called the tribal references awkward, forced, and ridiculous. A Dickinson, North Dakota woman attributes her longevity to a healthy lifestyle and keeping busy. Helma Lean celebrated birthday number 106 with family and friends at her retirement home. Lean says she enjoys crafts and writing. Lean was born on a farm in Grant County in 1916. She says her mother died from the flu at a young age, but despite losing her, Lean graduated from school and worked for the Bismarck Tribune. She moved to San Diego when her husband was called to service in World War II. The couple had 3 children that they raised in North Dakota. Lean's advice to the younger generation is to cherish time with family and maintain your faith. Fargo-Moorhead, nearly steady temperatures this afternoon. Will stay cloudy and windy for a time. As winds should subside this evening, mostly cloudy, 22, the overnight low. Mostly sunny tomorrow, still some wind to contend with in the morning. 38, 43 Friday, mostly cloudy, maybe a little light rain or light snow, and near 48 degrees, partly sunny Saturday. Again, it's 27. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
Fresh off of Spring break is the studio host of your Minnesota Twins, Chris Atterbury. I want to thank our sponsors, Lion-X on Main Avenue, West Fargo. You can visit Lion-X of Fargo on the web, lion-x.com. And now, of course, our new sponsor, Jiffy Lube. They have 3 Fargo locations. You can do more in a Jiffy at Jiffy Lube. Chris, people are wondering, were you in Cancun? Were you in Jamaica? Were you in the Bahamas? Were you Tom Cruise in Cocktail?
They based that character off me, obviously, but no, I was in Montana. I went home. Hit the slopes for a few days, a little birthday party with an old friend, and I caught some fresh mountain air.
Well, that'll work too. There's no place like home. I just picture you slinging
and a
drinks.
Big part of the reason is because I realized much too late, especially with Toronto on the schedule this year and on my schedule, that we had let our passports lapse during the pandemic. And so, we're not getting out of the country for another couple of weeks.
You know what? Now that you say that, how long are passports supposed to last for again? I mean, how many years? We talking 10? I think I'm well beyond mine, too. Right? Yeah, it's 10 years. God, I'm trying to think of the last time I exited the country. I know the last time I was up in Canada. Don't ever make a joke to Border Patrol, even as innocent as it is. They don't take kindly to that. So when you get your passport and you choose to go, just answer the questions as directly as they ask them. Okay, Chris?
Well, yeah, and so we used to cross when I was in the Northern League all those years. We crossed up into Winnipeg at Pembina, and they were the surliest of all the border guards, and they had just gotten the technology to where they could do background checks on everyone. Mm-hmm. No one needed passports, but they could check you all out. So if you had a minor in possession when you were a teenager, they knew, and they would be like, you can't come in. So we would travel with our trainer would have a wad of cash, and they'd be like, well, your second baseman had a gun charge. We don't want him in here, but for $500 he can play the 3 games. Okay, here's $500. Okay, this guy had a DUI. That's going to cost you $150. Okay, this guy, nope, he can't come in at all.
Yeah, there's no price.
Leave him at a hotel at Pembina.
And I'm sure there's slim pickings up in Pembina. No offense to my Pembina listeners up there.
Oh.
Yeah, the one time that they had me pulled over, all that, I was going up golfing, and they asked if you're going to leave anything behind. And I said, well, probably just a couple golf balls, because I'm not good at golf, Chris. They didn't find the humor in that at all.
They didn't like that.
Immediately pull your vehicle over to the left, get out, go in that building, and wait in line. And on the TV shows how they have those steel tables, and it feels like, they had the 2-way mirror. That's what it felt like for about the hour which they detained me. I eventually went up there, and I, of course, left a couple golf balls, but that's not why I called. Since you've been gone over in Montana, we got some new acquisitions. I mean, you got Chris Archer, the latest. You got the big name, Carlos Correa, a shortstop. You got new pitching. Give me your perspective with the latest Twins move here.
You should be dancing about the Correa addition. Yeah. I mean, it's a win for everyone. Now, it's a 3-year deal with an opt-out, so if he's really, really good, he probably opts out and then gets his 9-year deal or whatever that got interrupted by the lockout. But who cares, right? It's just Mr. Polad's money. Let's get this all-star shortstop in the middle of the lineup. I think that's awesome. I think it was a very innovative move, and I think it caught everybody by surprise, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. I think Sonny Gray acquisition's nice. Everyone, likes to stockpile their prospects, but let's be honest, you just signed Byron to that big deal. You want to win or be competitive in this season and the next couple, right? You don't want to just retool and wait for an 18-year-old kid you drafted last year. So I see no problem with that deal. Would it have been nice to get more pitching? Absolutely. It seems like that wasn't available. So for now, to get a veteran who I really respect like Archer, to get a veteran like Gray, I think they'll be good influences on the younger guys. And something you and I talked about a lot last year, it's pedal to the pavement time for these young pitchers we've been hearing about. Milojevic and Winder and Cole Sands, all these guys, they've been telling us about how we're developing pitchers better, we're developing pitching. We haven't seen it. Ober was the first guy. Joe Ryan came in a trade. Now's the time. We're going to have to see those guys over the course of the next 6 months have a positive impact.
Well, and, that's a conversation I've had with other Twins fans around here. It's like, we need pitching. We need more pitching. And you look at the landscape and, okay, well, where are you finding any available pitchers? I mean, there's not like there's a huge overflow of pitchers that were available, going into the season. So I think with what we were able to acquire over the last couple of weeks, all right, we can settle for it. But this, especially the Correa, seemed to have really, as you say, caught people's attention. The excitement, I can tell you, at least in the home base here, certainly picked up a notch with that announcement because, as you said, it was off everyone's radar. It was that, holy, we got who? And the excitement level for next week, the season to get underway, you can feel it, Chris, out here.
Well, and I think as a fan, you want the people who own and run your team to care about the team as much as you do, right? And you want them to make big moves.
Mm-hmm.
And so to do this, I think, should make you feel good as a fan. Can you imagine being a fan in Oakland or Cleveland or some of these other places, Pittsburgh? That would be terrible.
Yeah.
And so to be like, yeah, you know what? And you and I talked about it when they signed Byron, right? They didn't sign Byron to be bad and rebuild. They signed Byron with the thought that, yeah, we're transitioning a new wave of young players, but we're not going to just give up on the interim. And so to dump Donaldson's salary and to get a player like Correa, it's awesome. The only thing the Twins they lost Mitch Garver, which is not a small thing because he's a really good offensive catcher. He's a fine defensive catcher. I think catching is a question mark for this club at this point until Ryan Jeffers proves that he can do the job or Gary Sanchez becomes a completely different player defensively. So they gave up Garver, which is not small, but the overall return, certainly outweighs what they had to sacrifice.
Chris Atterbury, our guest, brought to you by Linex of Fargo and, of course, the Jiffy Lube of Fargo as well. With the acquisition now of Archer as well, I mean, is everything set up? Is rotation, is it likely set now with this latest addition?
I think it's set. I want to caution people that it's not 2015. If it was 2015 and I said Sonny Gray, Chris Archer, Dylan Bundy, you guys would be doing backflips.
Yeah.
So this is not 2015. We did not get a time machine, but they're guys who've done it before. It's set primarily because there's nobody else, right? I'm Gray, Ryan, Ober, Bundy, and Archer. You know who they are. Caution on both Ober and Ryan because, yes, they flashed last year, and the organization did a great job of protecting their arms, in particular Ober, so they could be healthy and they could be better. But those are two guys who've never gone out and thrown 180 innings, right? So this is a new environment. And because of the shortening of spring training and the expansion of rosters early in the year, I think how teams cover their innings with pitching is going to be really interesting. And I certainly would expect the Twins to be a team where their starters aren't going deep right out of the chute at all. I mean, they don't really do that anyway, right? So you're going to see Griffin Jackson long relief. You're probably going to see Jarrell Cotton in long relief, throwing maybe 3 innings in relief with some of these guys. But as far as the nominal starters, yeah, I think those are your 5 guys.
Well, and with Chris Archer, the way I understand, and you can certainly feel free to correct, is there's been interest from the organization in Archer in the past, some injuries. He's played great at times, but has the injury bug every now and then. With this shortened, preseason, does that worry the organization at all as far as, well, I didn't get the reps in, and that tends to sometimes lead to injury. Is there any discussion on that, or is it just, look, we made our decision, we're trusting the process, it's going to be just fine?
No, I think they've done their due diligence. They know Archer really, really well, especially Rocco was with him for a long time in Tampa. And Archer is a guy the Twins and everybody in baseball had interest in when he was at his peak. His injuries that he suffered in Pittsburgh and last year, they feel like they've cleared up. They don't think these are lingering type things. He's over the hip problem. And based on everything they've seen from his workouts, they feel he's ready to go. He's a real pros pro in terms of preparation and his body and knowing himself. And he's a guy that I've always really loved, not only for his pitching, but he's a real interesting, intelligent, dynamic personality. And I think that's awesome. Yeah, the more guys like that, the better.
Final question I have before you for this week before I let you go, and I don't know if you'll have an answer or not, but I saw, on the Twitter sphere that technology to stop sign stealing was tested by the Twins earlier this week. Did you hear anything about this?
Yeah, there's a good article in the Star Tribune today. It's been going around all the camps. And basically what it is the catcher has like a little wrist transmitter, and then the pitcher has a little receiver in his hat, and then you push a button, and then like a voice in your hat says, fastball up and in, slider low and away. And that's kind of how it works.
Okay.
So I reached out to a couple of Twins pitchers about it. They said it's no big deal. I don't think it's been fully cleared by the league. I think it's still in the testing process. I think the anticipation, though, is that it will be approved. And the Twins love their shiny toys, right? Like this front office, if it's something new and technological, like they're on it. They love it. So I would expect that if and when this thing gets fully approved, that the Twins would be towards the head of the pack in trying to utilize it as early and as often as possible. I just can't wait for the first story about some team hiring a kid from Radio Shack to intercept the transmission signal frequency, and then the league having to put 3 guys in the clubhouse to make sure they're not stealing frequencies. It's like walkie-talkies, right? Like walkie-talkies from your treehouse when you're a kid. I feel like sometimes the more we try to solve these problems, the Pandora's box opens up and we create more problems.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Chris, appreciate it, my friend. We're going to chat again next week, and guess what? Baseball will be back in full force right after that. I look forward to our conversation. You take care.
Yeah, we're going to be talking on opening day each.
Yes.
Next week. So that's kind of awesome.
All day tomorrow, we're getting people qualified to come on down there as KFGO listeners. So we got people itching to get on down to Target Field. But you have a good week. We'll chat again next Wednesday, all right?
All right, we'll see you.
Yeah, you bet. Chris Atterbury, studio host, Minnesota Twins. Again, I want to thank our sponsors. Lion X, Main Avenue in West Fargo. You can visit Lion X of Fargo on the web at lionx.com. And new sponsor, Jiffy Lube of Fargo. 3 convenient Fargo locations. You can do more in a jiffy at Jiffy Lube. More Afternoons Live right here next. I've told you a couple of times tomorrow we're going to get you qualified to win 4 tickets for the Twins opening day at Target Field. That's tomorrow, but also tomorrow, it's our second meat raffle. Now, if you haven't heard about this, I'll tell you right about now. 35270, that's the I-Consultants of North Dakota Text Club. You text the word MEAT, M-E-A-T, to that text code. Follow the link that is responded to you and get yourself registered because we got a meat raffle going on, and we're doing our second drawing on Afternoons Live tomorrow, where we're drawing 3 names of the, let's just say there's a lot of people that have gotten registered since we started this contest last week. So tomorrow we're going to draw 3 names right after our conversation with the meat dude. And then you're going to be qualified. If, in fact, you don't get your name heard, you're getting all of this into the finalists. There's going to be a number of people thrown in the final bucket that is going to be a part of the party we're having over at Bar 9, April 21st. We're doing another Traeger grill giveaway. Can't win if you don't play, and you can't play if you don't text MEAT to 35270, or you're at your office, the boss isn't looking, you can go to kfgo.com and just click on the Gear Up for Grilling right there. If you have already registered, there's no need to register again. And once you are in until the end of this entire giveaway, which is, again, April 21st. That is going to be over at Bar 9. If you want to put pen to paper, you want to, fill out a piece of a registration form and throw that into the box, you can go to Bar 9 and you can go to Bordertown, both in West Fargo, sponsors of this giveaway, and quite frankly, friends of the show. You can go over there, do it in person, and have a nice cold beverage as well, or you can just text in. You got a variety of ways to get registered, and be listening tomorrow during Afternoons Live, Tuesdays during It Takes Two with Amy and JJ. I'm going to get you caught up with KFGO News in just a moment here. Paul Jurgens will get you all the latest headlines. Rusty Halverson tracked down some of the questions that came in earlier about this whole avian flu. When do you report? When don't you? Is it safe for people? We'll get the latest there. Then I want to talk about the fact that Donald Trump, former president of the United States, is yet again asking Vladimir Putin, who is a war criminal, for political help. He did this just the other day. He's doing it again. How do you justify this? All you fans of Donald Trump out there, how do you justify him asking a war criminal right now while that war criminal is invading another country? 35270. Explain it to me right after this. I'm Tyler Axis. You got it locked into KFGO Fargo.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Muscatel Pre-Owned. Muscatel's was voted #1 by localsloveus.com for good reasons. So stop in today to Muscatel Pre-Owned just off of Exit 1 in Moorhead.
Fargo-Moorhead cloudy, 27. I'm Paul Juergens. Reporter Scott Peterson says a 45-year-old Champlin, Minnesota man who was arrested at a South Fargo apartment complex is now charged with murder for stabbing his wife to death.
James Neonte is accused of killing 35-year-old Pichu Yates. Yates was found bleeding and not breathing in the front yard of a home in Champlin Monday night. A witness told police she was on the phone with Yates when Neonte showed up at the home with a knife. The witness said she heard Neonte in the background say he just wanted to talk, and then the phone call ended.
According to the complaint, Yates and her children had moved out of their home and were living with family in Champlin because Neonte was under investigation for sexual misconduct. A tip led to his arrest in Fargo yesterday morning. A Florida man is now scheduled for trial in Minnesota this summer on human smuggling charges following his January arrest just across the Canadian border where 4 migrants had frozen to death during a blizzard. A federal judge has scheduled Steve Shan's trial to begin July 18th. Shan is charged with bringing 2 people into the country illegally and transporting them once in the U.S. The 4 bodies were discovered near Emerson, Manitoba. In addition, 5 Indian nationals are found walking on the Minnesota side of the border, and 2 others are found in Shan's van. 27, this is KFGO News. "27 degrees, this is KFGO News. Fargo City Commissioner Dave Pepcorn has decided to run for another term on the commission and will not be a candidate for mayor, something he considered. Pepcorn is the 11th person to file for one of the 2 commission spots. Commissioner Tony Garrick announced earlier that he is not running again. 5 people have filed for mayor, including incumbent Tim Mahoney and Commissioner Arlette Preston. The filing deadline for the June 14th election is April 11th. The executive director of the Trollwood Performing Arts School says it was a difficult decision to delay the planned performance of Singin' in the Rain at Bluestem Amphitheater that had been set for July. Kathy Anderson on KFGO's It Takes Two said finding temporary employees for the production, including a technical director, was a huge challenge.
It's a very large musical, a very large production, and it takes a lot of very skilled technicians to come in and work with our students to accomplish all of the things that we need to do in order to successfully make the musical happen. And so we've actually been moving forward all the way design work. And so we've got beautiful designs for the set. We've got costume designs happening. And so we want to see those come to fruition.
Anderson says the rising costs of materials and rigging for the stage were also factors. The show will be rescheduled for next summer. Governor Walz has signed a $25 million bill for research into ALS that was proposed by a veteran state senator from the Iron Range who was fighting the disease. Senator David Tomassoni of Chisholm took up the cause after disclosing last year that he had ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The 69-year-old's case has progressed rapidly, forcing him to participate in most Senate business remotely this session. The legislation provides $20 million for research into the prevention, treatment, causes, and cures of ALS. It also includes $5 million to help family care for ALS patients. Fargo-Moorhead will stay mostly cloudy, windy yet this afternoon, with those winds diminishing tonight. Expect an overnight low of about 22. 38 tomorrow, mostly sunny, still somewhat breezy in the morning, northerly at 10 to 25 or so, and then decreasing. Friday, mostly cloudy, slight chance of light rain, maybe a little light snow. 43 in the afternoon. 48 partly sunny on Saturday, and near 46 mostly cloudy Sunday, chance of light snow or light rain. 27, Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty Alverson back in the KFGO studio, and if you weren't listening, I tried to give your job to Bill Werner, our Capitol correspondent down in St. Paul, on accident. So glad to have you back, and I'm glad you're still our Farm and Ranch reporter.
Oh, sure.
And I had you actually doing some research by listeners here, and a question I had. First one that came in, I'm going to summarize because we're talking about the flu when it comes to avian flu, turkeys, chickens. They're wondering about the food safety side of it. The texter was. Okay.
This is not a food safety issue whatsoever.
Okay.
Whatsoever. The food supply is safe.
Very good.
This is a production and a trade issue.
The question that I had about gray areas, I told you off air, and I'll just reiterate because I know you made some phone calls here.
I did.
Because we're talking about, there's been some reports now in North Dakota, a farmer had, or a household had chickens in their backyard, which people do. I know that there's been discussions with inside city limits if you can allow this, that, the other thing to be in someone's residential property. And my question was in the grayness, because you say it's a production thing, right? So if I say up north where I live now, if I decided, hey, we're going to raise a couple chickens, they start having the symptoms you had there, and we put the chicken down. I mean, can I still eat the chicken, which we just discovered? Yes. Can I still get the eggs? Is it required to report it, I guess, if it's just on my house, my residential lot, is my question.
Okay. You've got a dozen chickens in your backyard waking you up every morning, probably your neighbors too.
Yeah, they wouldn't be talking.
Let's
probably
start there.
They would probably be thanking me if I went out there and had to do the dirty business.
If your very small flock in your backyard was showing any kind of signs of disease, you should contact your local veterinarian.
Okay.
Not required, but highly recommended. Contact your local veterinarian. That is your first contact. You can also contact state health department folks, extension folks. Anybody would be more than happy to help because everybody's on high alert.
Yeah.
Because this is a new situation similar to 2014, 2015, where high-path avian influenza has been detected in several states along the East Coast, the Midwest now, and also as these migratory birds who carry this avian influenza, as they try and head up north, well, they're congregating here now because of cold weather.
Right.
And so that is like a little refrigerator for the virus and these birds who will shed the infection nonstop if they are infected. It doesn't seem to affect migratory birds as much as it does commercial flocks, but highly fatal for commercial flocks. Mm-hmm. So first call, if you've got a backyard flock and anything pops up, just talk to your local veterinarian and they'll point you in the right direction. And there are federal indemnity programs that will compensate you for your flock, a small thing.
Right.
But
every little bit helps, especially with the way everything's going here.
Yep, but you have to document it, and that is your first call. But when it comes to food safety, this is not a food safety issue.
Very good. There, you answered both our questions, listeners and mine. I wanted to actually talk about the soil quality as well, because I know there's been other programs that we've discussed when it comes to a certain amount of acres going to a certain amount of, whether it's cover crop or the CRP. There's been some contention on some of those programs, but perhaps not the one that I want to know more about.
No, this program, this is a farmer-led program, Farmers for Soil Health. It wants to establish 30 million acres of cover crops by 2030. This is different from all the controversial 30 by 30 talk that we might have had. This is entirely different. Now, coming together, the corn, soy, pork commodity groups partnering with USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service want to improve soil health through cover crops. And NRCS Chief Terry Crosby says the effort helps fulfill consumer demand for environmentally sustainable products. And again, this is a farmer-led program partnering up with NRCS, USDA, the Farmers for Soil Health Initiative. Folks can Google that or look for the story on our website just to learn more.
Right at KFGO.com, just a couple of clicks away. You can check out more of Rusty Halverson, Sarah Heinrich's work right there. Appreciate it, man. You come back tomorrow, all right?
Absolutely. See you then.
See you then. I'll save that chair for you. Rusty Alverson. Again, you can go to KFGO.com, check out his work. CBS National News headlines on the way. Explain it to me. How do you defend the fact that the former president of the United States is asking a war criminal for help because of his politics? We'll talk about that right after this on KFGO. That came in before I get into the fact that you've got a former president asking an adversary, a war criminal, for help to basically undermine the current president. Take a little issue with that. I hope you do as well. But tomorrow we have this Twins Mania, and someone's wondering, how do you get registered for Twins opening day tickets? Be listening tomorrow, because every show has their own unique way of which you're going to get qualified. From the morning crew, news and views, It Takes Two, and Afternoons Live, and then the Drive Time News, which follows this show. So right at 5:05, Eric Johnson, my producer, is going to be hanging around. He's pulling a name out. And then you and 3 other seats are going to be filled, and you're going to be going down there having a good time, hopefully, on us. All right. So just the other day, you have got former President Donald Trump in an interview that's airing on this. It's a website. It's a video interview that they were talking about payments a decade ago from an oligarch's wife, so one of those rich guys from Russia. His wife paid it to a company founded by Hunter Biden. And you've got Donald Trump going, well, I would think Putin would know the answer to that, and I think he should release it. So you've got, let me boil it down for you. You've got this former president, Donald Trump, asking Vladimir Putin, who is a war criminal, the same Putin that illegally invaded Ukraine, that is bombing maternity hospitals, killing pregnant women and children. The same Vladimir Putin that is continuing to bomb other areas even after saying, well, we're going to pull back, only to be lying yet again. That same Vladimir Putin, you've got a former president asking him to release whatever information he thinks is out there to undermine the current president in a time of war in which the individuals we're helping are taking on that same adversary, that same war criminal. How can you justify this and support this behavior? Because a recent poll just came out earlier today that I saw as far as who Republicans would like to see as their candidate for president, and you know who overwhelmingly won is Donald Trump. So if you're supporting him for the presidency, you're supporting his willingness, his favor, his ask of a war criminal to undermine the sitting president of the United States right now. So I want you to explain how you support that, because that's exactly what's going on. And it's not the first time. This one, I think, certainly much more extreme than the last time he asked Vladimir Putin for help. I mean, it doesn't take long to hear it in your own mind of, Russia, if you're listening, about Hillary's emails back in 2015, 2016. So now this is two. What separates this one from 2016 is the fact that the war criminal and Vladimir Putin is actively committing war crimes in Eastern Europe right now, in which you've got NATO, that includes us, our allies, that are in unison trying to prevent him from going further. So you have this situation, and yet you've got Republicans overwhelmingly wanting him to be the candidate in 2024. So if you want that, then it seems to me you support that behavior, and I want you to explain it. You can do that at the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. That's at 35270. You can also call into the Laney studio line at 237-594. I'm going to get to the text club and some of the messages that have come in. Tyler, Putin considers Trump to be a Russian asset. Putin uses the term useful idiots. Other messages that came in that Trump is a jerk. It's just this approach. Now, I don't, whatever you think about Joe Biden and his approach to energy, his approach to the economy, do you really take that and you're so aggravated by that phase and what you thought that he's done or has not done as president that you support asking our adversary, a war criminal, to undermine that presidency? Because if you do, I think you got a lot of explanation, a lot of soul searching to do, and I'll give you the platform to do it right here on KFGO. Even if you go back, if this was Barack Obama, if this is Bill Clinton, Bush Sr., asking Vladimir Putin to dig up dirt and then to release it in a time of war to undermine that next administration, I would take issue with that too. It's God honest truth. So if you're fine with it, here's an opportunity. I'll wait for you at 35270. In the meantime, I'll get you caught up with the weather from Too Tall Tom Szymanski. We'll wrap up the second hour of Afternoons Live right after this. 6 minutes until the 4 o'clock hour does strike. I'm going to throw this out there one more time because there's going to be people commuting home. I have no idea if the wind has died down at all. I just know that earlier today, after the snow, the wind kicked in and it was pretty much glaring up some of those east-west roads in particular. We started off the show with some of those road warrior reports as people are getting antsy to get out of the office, get out of the shop, get on the road, get home, get to the bar. Whatever it is you're doing, the restaurant, I don't care. Let's make sure we're all getting each other there safely. So if any road warrior reports need to be sent in, you can do it by text. If you're the passenger, I don't want anybody driving and doing this at 35270. But, of course, the Laney studio line is open as well. You can call us at 237-5948. In the meantime, I'm asking you to justify, there's a lot of Republicans listening right now that says Donald Trump's still my guy. And I want you to try to tell me how that you can say that and support him having calls on the war criminal Putin to undermine this current administration, all just because of politics in the midst of a war. 35270. Tyler, my thoughts are Mr. Trump has learned absolutely nothing from past mistakes and is incapable of becoming a better person. Would never get my vote. Another one, unfortunately, Tyler, in today's world, there is no more common sense. It's us against them, and it doesn't matter what us does as long as it's us. I think it's supposed to be U.S., or maybe it is us. This is basically the mantra of the Republican Party. Okay, it is us. My apologies. I should have finished reading there. To take a step back, there was a lot of people that were quite upset with me the last time we broached on this because of just bringing up the sheer fact that something very similar to this request was made by Donald Trump while he was president to the president of Ukraine, saying, I need you to do me a favor first before I give you the weapons that Congress approved. Remember that second impeachment? So he asked that favor of Ukraine. He didn't get it. Well, now he's asking that favor of the war criminal that invaded Ukraine. That's the reality of this, folks. It's completely unbecoming of anybody that has held the office or wants to hold it again. Yet, when you see about 50% of the Republican Party itself saying, but he's still my guy, I want some damn answers. As to you, there are certainly better, more qualified candidates out there on the Republican side that you can get behind, right? Those that aren't going to call in favors or publicly ask a war criminal to do his political bidding. You can pick any, even the ones that want to mimic that behavior or mimic the way he went about some domestic policy. There's got to be other options than that out there, right? Sure hope so. More messages coming in. I'm going to save those until after I get you caught up with CBS National News. We'll change gears a little bit later on in the 4 o'clock hour as well. I know people just want to get on home. We'll have a little bit of fun along the way as well. Talking about seasonal jobs, which one did you have? Because quite frankly, they're hiring out there. Doesn't feel like spring out there right now, but she's right around the corner, so we'll talk about that. In the meantime, I'm going to get you caught up again. National news headlines. Paul Jurgens at the KFGO News Center will get you all the latest as well. Those road conditions, the news that happened earlier today. When it comes to that fire that was over on 17th Avenue, 42nd, all that and more coming up. I'm Tyler Axis. You're listening to 790 AM, 94.1 and 104.7 FM, KFGO. Messages into the Eye Consultants of North Dakota Text Club. I'll get back to all of those after we check in with Paul Jenkins of the KFGO News Center. You want to talk about Putin? You want to talk about oil, gas? You want to talk about conscience? I really don't care. Whatever you want to get off your chest this final hour, I'm here for you. Just told you the Eye Consultants of North Dakota text line. You want to call into the Laney's studio line? That's cool. 237-5948. Everything from Road Warrior reports, concerts, it is all on the table. I'll remind you again, if you text the word meat to 35270, you get registered for the meat raffle, because tomorrow, by this time, you're already going to know the other three meat raffle winners for this week. So that's coming up tomorrow, along with our Twins ticket giveaway. Be listening all day tomorrow, but of course, plenty of afternoons live and drive time news left here. And Hennessy on Hockey, KFGO Today, coast to coast is your evening lineup right here on KFGO.
KFGO News, cloudy 27. I'm Paul Jerkins. Fargo City Commissioner Dave Pepcorn has decided to run for another term on the commission and will not be a candidate for mayor, something he considered. Pepcorn is the 11th person to file for one of the two commission spots. Commissioner Tony Garrick announced earlier that he is not running again. 5 people have filed for mayor, including incumbent Tim Mahoney and Commissioner Arlette Preston. The filing deadline for the June 14th election is April 11th. Fire caused heavy damage to row garages at the Brook Apartments at 4240 17th Avenue South in Fargo this morning. The call came in just after 6. Fire Marshal Ryan Erickson tells KFGO News heavy flames could be seen coming from several of those garages when the first units arrived. However, a number of the 15 stalls had significant damage. That 2-alarm fire burned through some of the walls. Portions of the roof collapsed and some vehicles were lost. An estimate of the damage has not been released. The cause is under investigation. Governor Walz has now signed a $25 million bill for research into ALS that was proposed by a veteran state senator from the Iron Range who is fighting the disease. Senator David Tomassoni of Chisholm took up the cause after disclosing last year that he had ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The 69-year-old's case has progressed rapidly, forcing him to participate in most Senate business remotely this session. The legislation provides $20 million for research into the prevention, treatment, causes, and cures of ALS. It also includes $5 million to help families care for ALS patients. Minnesota's high school graduation rate dropped slightly last year. Just over 83% of seniors graduated on time, a half percentage point drop from 2020.
The class of 2021 is the first graduating cohort that experienced a full year impacted by the pandemic. Seeing a slight decline this year emphasizes the importance of ensuring Minnesota public schools have the funding and resources necessary to support all students.
Education Commissioner Dr. Heather Mueller on nearly every student group posted a dip in the percentage of students graduating on time. Black students registered a slight improvement to 70%. Bird flu has now been confirmed in a non-commercial backyard chicken flock in North Dakota. The poultry flock is in Kidder County. It is the first confirmed case in the state since 2015. Farms that raise poultry have been on high alert and taking steps to increase biosecurity. Since avian influenza was recently discovered in several states, including Minnesota, all birds in the North Dakota flock will be destroyed. Bird flu does not present an immediate public health concern. Fargo-Moorhead winds subsiding tonight will stay mostly cloudy and about 22 for the overnight low. Tomorrow, 38, mostly sunny. 43 then Friday, a mostly cloudy day. Possible light rain, light snow. 48 Saturday, partly sunny, and mostly cloudy Sunday, 46. Cloudy, 27. Paul Jerkins, News Radio, KFGO.
KFGO time close enough to 4:10. I'm Tyler Axis, your host. Eric Johnson, your producer. Questions coming in. If I already talked about Eric Church, we can dive right back on into that. But I want to, because I'd asked, and we've had some people respond. It's justify to me how you can support somebody that's out there asking a war criminal to help politically yet again. Tyler, it is probably not the best thing to do. I'm just going to say that's an understatement. But from day one, he took office. He did not have a chance to do anything in office without criticism. He being, I think, Donald Trump. Now we have nothing but crooks in office. Everything is up 25% since Sleepy Joe took office. We were independent on gas when Trump was in office. Now he is begging to get gas from some of our enemies. When you look at the whole picture, we're much worse off now in 18 months by far, this texter says. Let's unpack a little bit because, there's a lot here. One thing that we're going to find absolute agreement on is you don't need to be asking places like Venezuela to be pumping more. And if you missed the beginning part of our show, I played some audio right here in North Dakota. They're talking and they're asking questions yesterday in Bismarck. Why aren't we pumping more in North Dakota? And the line of questioning was to pin it exactly on Joe Biden, which is what this texter is trying to get to here. Now, the thing with that is, in North Dakota, we have, and this is from Lynn Helms, he's the regulator and promoter of oil in the state, 475 drilled but uncompleted wells at the end of February. He discussed that yesterday. So the question, why did we drill but we haven't completed them here in North Dakota? The biggest thing is you can't find workforce. The other biggest thing is the fact that the market's driving this. That what's not happening in North Dakota is happening in Texas and it's happening in New Mexico. And you can't tell me that North Dakota doesn't have, loose reins saying, look, come here, do what you will when it comes to the oil and gas production. I think the regulation has been pretty lax. That's why during that big boom from 2013, even before, we had that dramatic drop in 2015. Since then, we had some recovery, but nothing compared to what it was. And it's because of markets, is what Lynn Helms said. And we played that audio earlier. And if you missed it, we've got that up at KFGO. You can watch it also on YouTube here. So you've got that situation. I think what has been buried here, and I can give you, here's the pass I'll give you, because when it comes to what you're paying for things due to inflation, it's eaten away on anything else that has been, quote, recovery from this pandemic. The economy has grown, probably doesn't feel like it because you know what, you're paying more for your jug of milk, your loaf of bread. Jobs, there's been millions of jobs that have come back or have been created since then. But as long as you're not paying less for this, you don't feel it. And until that gets addressed and it feels like what you're taking home and pay is getting you to be able to afford more, you're not gonna appreciate that. And I understand it. I totally do. So when you've got going into the midterms, if you're a Democrat or you're in the White House, you're wishing, boy, I wish the cost of goods would come down, because you know what? We think we've done a good job on A and B, but no one's recognizing it whatsoever. But again, when I come back to the question here, just to say, well, it's probably not the best thing to do. I say it's completely unacceptable to have a former president ask a war criminal for political help now for the second time in 6 years. Did it in 2016 asking about emails, doing it now asking about a laptop, or pardon me, not the laptop. That's a whole other red siren that's going on out there for some people. About a payment from a wife to Joe Biden's son. It's completely unbecoming of anybody that has held that office or anybody that wants to hold that office. So explain to me how you can justify and support that. Tyler, funny, your texter didn't answer the question. Another one, Tyler, the USA was not energy independent under Trump. Trump imported more oil from Russia than Obama. And I have talked about that a number of times. That, in fact, it sounds great. There's people right here in North Dakota, delegation, that have said, well, you know what? We weren't doing this. We weren't doing that. You bet we were. We weren't energy independent then. We're not now. And if you're listening to Lynn Helms, again, the promoter of the industry here in North Dakota, saying that this predated this administration, it's going to be here after this administration is gone. 35270. That's the I Consultants from North Dakota Text Club. You can also call me, Laney Studio Line, at 237-594. You take a pause. I'll get back to that Eric Church thing since you're asking. Yeah, I've shared some thoughts. I'm alone, apparently, in my thoughts because guess what? I forgive the guy. I'll ask you if you do when we come back. This is Afternoons Live. You are listening to 790 AM, 104.7 FM, and, of course, 94.1 FM here in the metro area, KFGO.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Rick Electric. Proud to serve the Fargo-Moorhead area since 1964. Day or night, they're here for you. Find them at rickelectric.com.
Cloudy 27 degrees. I'm Paul Juergens. The field of candidates for Fargo City Commission has grown to 11, with Commissioner Dave Pepcorn filing for another term, deciding against a run for mayor. Pepcorn hopes to retain his seat on the commission, where 2 seats are in play. Commissioner Tony Gehrig decided not to seek another term. There are 5 candidates who have filed for mayor thus far, including incumbent Tim Mahoney. The filing deadline for the June 14th election is April 11th. John Hoeven has easily won the Republican convention delegates' endorsement for office, first as governor and later as a U.S. senator. But his endorsement is not as certain as it has been in the past 2 decades, as he seeks a 3rd Senate term. To a growing faction of strongly conservative Republicans led by State Representative Rick Beckler of Bismarck. Up to 2,000 delegates are expected to endorse candidates this weekend at the party's convention in Bismarck. Becker says he will not continue on to the primary if he doesn't win the endorsement. Hoeven won't say whether he would run in the primary should he not receive the majority of delegates. 27, this is KFGO News. You're listening to KFGO News. A woman was not hurt when she opened the ceiling hatch on a commuter bus and was seen waving her arms and stumbling on the roof as it rolled down I-94 in North Minneapolis. The bus had dropped off passengers at the Maple Grove Transit Station and was thought to be empty as it returned to downtown Minneapolis. The woman hid behind a seat, then opened a hatch and climbed onto the roof. Drivers called 911. The bus driver pulled onto the shoulder. There's no word on why the woman did it. Feedback from parents and teachers on the first draft of a new math standards for Minnesota students, grades K through 12, has been overwhelmingly negative, to including references to the state's American Indian tribes. The Department of Education committee is proposing 20 standards, which summarize what students are expected to learn in math. Since the document was released last month, parents and educators have called the tribal references awkward, forced, and ridiculous. Attorney General Keith Ellison and a bipartisan coalition of 44 attorneys general are urging TikTok and Snapchat to give parents the ability to monitor their children's social media use through certain apps. Ellison says it's an attempt to protect children from online threats.
Things like cyberbullying, sexual predation, things like body image and self-esteem, dissatisfaction, drugs, alcohol, things like, suicidal ideation and self-harm.
Ellison says the latest research shows an increasingly negative effect that social media can have on the physical, emotional, and mental well-being of children and teenagers. The South Dakota Attorney General's office will investigate whether state campaign finance disclosure laws were broken by a political organization that sponsored billboards to push state lawmakers to impeach Attorney General Jason Ravnsborg. The Attorney General's Chief of Staff says the office has received 2 formal complaints. It is still determining how the investigation would be handled given the potential conflict of interest over the billboards. An organization launched to further Governor Noem's agenda sponsored the billboards in Sioux Falls this month. The signs demanded Ravnsborg be impeached for his conduct related to a collision that killed pedestrian Joe Beaver. Fargo-Moorhead will stay mostly cloudy tonight, winds continuing to subside. In KFGO, meteorologist Tom Szymanski is expecting an overnight low of about 22. A bit breezy in the morning, mostly sunny though, and 38. Clouds for Friday, 43. A slight chance of light rain, light snow, 48. The high on Saturday, partly sunny. 27. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
Very glad this is edited. Way to get my heart thumping over here, not just because of the sweet melody and drum line of Nelly, but because I thought, okay, here's where the fine comes in.
Nah, we're good.
Whew, okay. Thanks, Paul Juergens, for getting us all the latest news. I want to get back to this text message because, again, this system, which you've heard me complain about, and I'll probably do it again some other time. But the point of this text I came in, I missed the big part of it. And if you're going to take the time to send all this in, I think I owe it to you to share it because I've got some thoughts. Tyler, you look for the supporters of Trump to defend him, but honestly, there's less people that will do that than you think. I'm conservative, not a conservative. Conservatism is a philosophy, not a political party. I'm not a Republican. I don't like Trump. He was bad for the country. His ideas had some merit if he would have just shut his mouth. Both of our major parties have been hijacked by extremists, and it's sickening. I don't see it getting better. We're a long ways from seeing it get any better. My question for you, and I want you to answer honestly, say it's a rematch of 2020. You got Donald Trump, you got Joe Biden. As a conservative, who do you vote for? Do you vote for Donald Trump? I mean, I asked that, and I get you're saying, look, I'm not a Republican. But if those are the only two options that you have to choose, or do you sit it out? Because that also is a decision, and that also has consequences. Now, as far as, you're not a Republican, you are not alone in that. And I don't know that we equate both sides and both extremes on all measures here. But I can tell you, as being a former Democrat, there's times where you look at least on the national scale, which I don't think is necessarily fair to those at the local scale. But if it's those that are just certainly grabbing the headlines, now part of that is national media as well, because they're just wanting something that's going to rile it up. And it makes you wonder, do they ever do their damn job? I mean, if I see Ted Cruz tweet one more time while he's sitting on a committee, and especially when it's on the Judiciary Committee that's asking the potential next Supreme Court justice and then so rushing to find out his mentions. Oh, who's saying what about me? We're paying these people to do this, but those are the people that get the most attention. They're the ones that are getting in front of Chuck Todd. Those are the ones that are getting on all the Sunday news, so it's really pulling the conversation that way to where and I would say it's a majority, I really would, people out there that don't have a political home. You're forced to vote, based on who gets through that process of the convention, of the primary, all of that, to where your choices are limited by the time you really get a say. But my question, if you're a conservative, not a Republican, in this matchup, which very well could likely be the case between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, you have to choose who you voting for. And that's where, for those that I'm asking to defend, the thing that I think is so disqualifying, amongst other things they did while he was in office, is now that he's out of office, he's yet again asking a war criminal to get his back. That crosses the line for me. 237-5948, Laney studio line. You can also text in to the Ag Consultants of North Dakota Text Club, 35270. I'm going to get you caught up with CBS National News. Come back to Afternoons Live right here on KFGO. Slow news day, huh? All you seem to be worried about is the past and Donald Trump. What about the crook family we currently have in office, or when will we start relying on homegrown energy sources? Either you're just tuning in or you've been hearing and not really listening. Couple of things. This isn't in the past. This was in the past 24 hours that you have Donald Trump asking the war criminal Putin for help, saying, well, he knows, and I hope he releases whatever information he has on the crook family you are referring to. And also what's happening now is that war criminals continuing to bomb Ukraine. So this isn't in the past. This is right now. And the bottom line is, as of right now, that same individual is the front runner for the Republican Party to be their candidate to be the next president of the United States again. It might make you uncomfortable to talk about it, but this isn't about 6 years ago when he did it the first time. It's about what he did in the last 24 to 48 hours. Now, as far as the relying on homegrown energy sources, we started off the show talking about exactly that. Why are we not getting that development, say, in good old North Dakota, the Bakken oil? Well, you got to take a step back here and remind yourself that it was just within a matter of a couple of months ago that they're saying that this whole formation, North Dakota, we're not having the boom. We've now matured. It's based on a couple of things. One, workforce. Two, the markets. Certainly, you're going to say, well, what about this administration that seems to really hate oil and hate gas? The thing is, there are 475 drilled but uncompleted wells right here in North Dakota that are sitting there waiting to be completed. And it's not because Joe Biden, it's not because there's a Democrat in the White House. It's because of the things I just told you. And Lynn Helms, who's the promoter of oil and gas right here in North Dakota, not in Texas, not in New Mexico, not in Alaska, Oklahoma, right here, he laid it out there and said the biggest barrier started 7 years ago from the guys that he was talking to about some of the changes that were happening within the market, some of the changes that happened within the demand of what people want. A lot of that market, stock market. So you want to gripe about that, I could jump right on board with you there. Because they want these companies cutting things instead of, ramping up things that are just cut the cost for you and I at the pump. But this is all happening right now. Back to the text. I'm tired. I didn't hear if you answered my question about sticking up for the fans in baseball and lower ticket prices. And earlier we're talking about that was the Eric Church thing, and you talked about the fact that they should be lowering prices. That's one thing I will give credit to the Minnesota Twins, Target Field. If we're talking baseball, they're not jumping up prices. Now, one thing I will say is the product on the field last year probably wouldn't have allowed them to justify an increase in ticket prices because it just wasn't that good. But I say of all the organizations out there in baseball regards, it's the organization that seems to care most about their fans and what they've got to pay when they're coming through the gates to take in a baseball game, which 4 of you are going to be doing here in about a week if you are listening tomorrow throughout the KFGO lineup, because we're going to get 4, or you qualified, then 4 tickets going out to you. Now, as far as the sticking fans on the prices because of what we're paying players, again, we're talking markets when it comes to oil and gas development. The same thing's going to be happening. If people are willing to pay to go with that ticket price, those concessions, and if they can find a way to make it work, it's not going to change anything until fewer and fewer people go, and I just don't see that coming anytime soon. Get you this last weather update. Get your Road Warrior reports out as well, because you know what? People are starting to take that drive time right now. Drive time news coming up at 5 o'clock. We'll see what's coming up with Eric Johnson, Paul Heitz. Going to steer you right into Hennessy on Hockey, KFGO Today, and, of course, all your goblins, ghouls, aliens can be found on Coast to Coast right here on KFGO. Don't go anywhere.